Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we're going to continue reading the pastimes of Pṛthu Maharaj from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23. Would somebody like to read?
I can read.
Yeah, please.
Maharaj Pṛthu's going back home. Text 1 to 3. At the last stage of his life, when Maharaj Pṛthu saw himself getting old, that great soul who was king of the world divided whatever opulence he had accumulated amongst all kinds of living entities, moving and non-moving. He arranged pensions for everyone according to religious principles, and after executing the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in complete coordination with him, he dedicated his sons unto the earth, which was considered to be his daughter. Then Maharaj Pṛthu left the presence of his citizens, who were almost lamenting and crying from feeling separation from the king, and went to the forest alone with his wife to perform austerities. I didn't understand that part. The sons, what did he say?
He dedicated his sons unto the earth,
The earth, which was considered to be his daughter.
like told his sons to take care of the earth because he was the king. No?
Okay. Okay. So it means the sons will lead, will take over
Become the
the
kings.
kings,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, because he is going to retire.
Okay.
So he's making sure that everything is going to be taken care of properly before he retires. So
Okay.
he is. Yeah.
So like Bhumi means like he considered as his daughter, the
Yeah.
earth, right? Oh,
The earth, yes.
oh. Text 4. After retiring from family life, Maharaj Pṛthu strictly followed the regulations of retired life and underwent severe austerities in the forest. He engaged in these activities as seriously as he had formerly engaged in leading the government and conquering everyone. Text 5. In the Tapovan, Maharaj Pṛthu sometimes ate the trunks and roots of trees. Sometimes he ate fruit and dried leaves, and for some weeks he drank only water. Finally, he lived simply by breathing air. Text 6. Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Pṛthu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. Text 7. Maharaj Pṛthu underwent all these severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within his body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. Text 8. By thus practicing severe austerities, Maharaj Pṛthu gradually became steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all desires for fruitive activities. He also practiced breathing exercises to control his mind and senses, and by such control, he became completely free from all desires for fruitive activity. Text 9. Thus, the best amongst human beings, Maharaj Pṛthu followed that path of spiritual advancement which was advised by Sanat Kumar. That is to say, he worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Text 10. Maharaj Pṛthu thus engaged completely in devotional service, executing the rules and regulations strictly according to principles 24 hours daily. Thus, his love and devotion unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna developed and became unflinching and fixed. Text 11. By regularly discharging devotional service, Pṛthu Maharaj became transcendental in mind and could therefore constantly think of the lotus feet of the Lord. Because of this, he became completely detached and attained perfect knowledge by which he could transcend all doubt. Thus, he was freed from the clutches of false ego and the material conception of life. Text 12. When he became completely free from the conception of bodily life, Maharaj Pṛthu realized Lord Krishna sitting in everyone's heart as the Paramatma. Being thus able to get all instructions from him, he gave up all other practices of yoga and jnana. He was not even interested in the perfection of the yoga and jnana systems, for he thoroughly realized that devotional service to Krishna is the ultimate goal of life, and that unless the yogis and jnanis become attracted to Krishna Katha, narrations about Krishna, their illusions concerning existence can never be dispelled. Text 13. In due course of time, when Pṛthu Maharaj was to give up his body, he fixed his mind firmly upon the lotus feet of Krishna, and thus, completely situated on the Brahmabhuta platform, he gave up the material body. Text 14. When Maharaj Pṛthu practiced a particular yogic sitting posture, he blocked the door of his anus with his ankles, pressed his right and left calves, and gradually raised his life air upward, passing it on to the circle of his navel, up to his heart and throat, and finally pushed it upward to the central position between his two eyebrows. Text 15. In this way, Pṛthu Maharaj gradually raised his air of life up to the hole of in his skull, whereupon he lost all desire for material existence. Gradually, he merged his air of life with the totality of air, his body with the totality of earth, and the fire within his body with the totality of fire. Text 16. In this way, according to the different positions of the various parts of the body, Pṛthu Maharaj merged the wholes of his senses with the sky, his bodily liquids such as blood and various secretions with the totality of water, and he merged earth with water, then water with fire, fire with air, air with sky, and so on. Text 17. He amalgamated the mind with the senses and the senses with the sense objects according to their respective positions. And he also amalgamated the material ego with the total material energy, Mahatattva. Text 18. Pṛthu Maharaj then offered the total designation of the living entity unto the supreme controller of illusory energy. Being released from all the designations by which the living entity became entrapped, he became free by knowledge and renunciation and by the spiritual force of his devotional service. In this way, being situated in his original constitutional position of Krishna consciousness, he gave up this body as a Prabhu or controller of the senses. Text 19. The queen, the wife of Pṛthu Maharaj, whose name was Archi, followed her husband into the forest. Since she was a queen, her body was very delicate. Although she did not deserve to live in a forest, she voluntarily touched her lotus feet to the ground. Text 20. Although she was not accustomed to such difficulties, Queen Archi followed her husband in the regulative principles of living in the forest like great sages. She lay down on the ground and ate only fruits, flowers, and leaves. And because she was not fit for these activities, she became frail and thin. Yet, because of the pleasure she derived in serving her husband, she did not feel any difficulties. Text 21. When Queen Archie saw that her husband, who had been so merciful to her and the earth, no longer showed symptoms of life, she lamented for a little while and then built a fire, a fiery fry on top of a hill and placed the body of her husband on it. Text 22. After this, the queen executed the necessary funerary functions and offered oblations of water. After bathing in the river, she offered obeisances to various demigods situated in the sky in the different planetary systems. She then circumambulated the fire and, while thinking of the lotus feet of her husband, entered its flames. Text 23. After observing this brave act performed by the chaste wife Archie, the wife of the great king Pṛthu, many thousands of the wives of the demigods, along with their husbands, offered prayers to the queen, for they were very much satisfied. Text 24. At that time, the demigods were situated on the top of Mandara hill, and all their wives began to shower flowers on the funeral pyre and began to talk amongst themselves as follows. Text 25. The wives of the demigods said, all glories to Queen Archie. We can see that this queen of the great king Pṛthu, the emperor of all the kings of the world, has served her husband with mind, speech, and body, exactly as the goddess of fortune serves the supreme personality of Godhead, Yagnesha or Vishnu. Text 26. The wives of the demigods continue. Just see how this chaste lady, Archie, by dint of her inconceivable pious activities, is still following her husband upward as far as we can see. Text 27. In this material world, every human being has a short span of life, but those who are engaged in devotional service go back home, back to Godhead, for they are actually on the path of liberation. For such persons, there is nothing which is not available. Text 28. Any person who engages himself within this material world in performing activities that necessitate great struggle and who, after obtaining a human form of life, which is a chance to attain liberation from miseries, undertakes the difficult task of fruitive activities, must be considered to be cheated and envious of his own self. Text 29. The great sage Maitreya continued speaking. My dear Vidura, when the wives of the denizens of heaven were thus talking amongst themselves, Queen Archie reached the planet which her husband, Maharaj Pṛthu, the topmost self-realized soul, had attained. Text 30. Maitreya continued. The greatest of all devotees, Maharaj Pṛthu, was very powerful, and his character was liberal, magnificent, and magnanimous. Thus, I have described him to you as far as possible. Text 31. Any person who describes the great characteristics of King Pṛthu with faith and determination, whether he reads or hears of them himself or helps others to hear of them, is certain to attain the very planet which Maharaj Pṛthu attained. In other words, such a person also returns home to the Vaikuntha planets, back to Godhead. Text 32. If one hears of the characteristics of Pṛthu Maharaj and is a Brahmana, he becomes perfectly qualified with Brahmanical powers. If he is a Kshatriya, he becomes a king of the world. If he is a Vaishya, he becomes a master of other Vaishyas and many animals, and if he is a Shudra, he becomes the topmost devotee. Text 33. It does not matter whether one is a man or a woman. Anyone who, with great respect, hears this narration of Maharaj Pṛthu will become the parent of many children, if without children, and will become the richest if without money. Text 34. Also, one who hears this narration 3 times will become very reputable if he is not recognized in society, and he will become a great scholar if he is illiterate. In other words, hearing of the narrations of Pṛthu Maharaj is so auspicious that it drives away all bad luck. Text 35. By hearing the narration of Pṛthu Maharaj, one can become great, increase his duration of life, gain promotion to the heavenly planets, and counteract the contaminations of this age of Kali. In addition, one can promote the causes of religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Therefore, from all sides, it is advisable for a materialistic person who is interested in such things to read and hear the narrations of the life and character of Pṛthu Maharaj. Text 36. If a king who is desirous of attaining victory and ruling power chants the narration of Pṛthu Maharaj 3 times before going forth on his chariot, all subordinate kings will automatically render all kinds of taxes unto him, as they rendered them unto Maharaj Pṛthu, simply upon his order. Text 37. A pure devotee who is executing the different processes of devotional service may be situated in the transcendental position, being completely absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But even he, while discharging devotional service, must hear, read, and induce others to hear about the character and life of Pṛthu Maharaj. Text 38. The great sage Maitreya continued, My dear Vidura, I have as far as possible spoken the narrations about Pṛthu Maharaj, which enrich one's devotional attitude. Whoever takes advantage of these benefits also goes back home, back to Godhead, like Maharaj Pṛthu. Text 39. Whoever with great reverence and adoration regularly reads, chants, and describes the history of Maharaj Pṛthu's activities will certainly increase unflinching faith and attraction for the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord's lotus feet are the boat by which one can cross the ocean of nations. Chapter 24. Chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva. Text 1. The great sage Maitreya continued. Vijit.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Hare Krishna. Sorry. Thank you. I didn't realize I was muted. Okay. Jai Pṛthu Maharaj ki Jai. So with
Yes.
this, we came to an end to hearing Pṛthu Maharaj's pastimes thrice. So congratulations to all of us. And we'll begin with chapter 24 today. Text 1. Maitreya Vacha
Maitreya Vacha.
Vijitashva
Sorry. We'll repeat.
Dhirajasid. Please, yes.
Vijitashva adhiraja asit.
Pṛthu Putra Pṛthu Shrava
Pṛthu Putra Pṛthu Shrava.
Yavi Yobhyo Dadat Kashtha
Yaviyobhyam adatat kashtha.
Bhratarbhyo Bhratar Vatsala
Bhrataryabhay bhratar vatsalah.
The great sage Maitreya continued, Vijitashva, the eldest son of Maharaj Pṛthu, who had a reputation like his father's, became emperor and gave his younger brothers different directions of the world to govern, for he was very affectionate toward his brothers. So we read in the last chapter that Maharaj Pṛthu, when he retired, he entrusted the care of the earth, who he was taking care of earth as his own daughter. Like a father takes care of the daughter, like this Pṛthu Maharaj was taking care of the earth. And he entrusted this care to his sons. And Vijitashva, the eldest son, has become the emperor. After describing the life and character of Maharaj Pṛthu in the previous chapter, the great sage Maitreya began to speak about the sons and grandsons in the genealogical line of the Pṛthu dynasty. After the death of Maharaj Pṛthu, his eldest son Vijitashva became emperor of the world. King Vijitashva was very affectionate toward his younger brothers, and therefore he wanted them to rule different directions of the world. From time immemorial, the eldest son generally becomes king after the death of the previous king. When the Pandavas ruled the earth, Maharaj Yudhishthir, the eldest son of King Pandu, became emperor, and his younger brothers assisted him. Similarly, King Vijitashva's younger brothers were appointed to govern the different directions of the world. So the righteous kings would hand over the kingdom to their righteous sons. The eldest becomes the king, and then the other sons help them. Also, like we will hear in the 5th canto, how Maharaj Rishabdev, when he retires, then he hands over the kingdom also to his sons. And Bharat Maharaj becomes the emperor of the earth. Haryakshaya dishat prachim.
Harishraya adishrat prachim.
Dhumrakeshaya dakshinam.
Dhumrukeshaya dakshinam.
Pratijimbraka samnaya.
Pratichimbraka sanghyaya.
Turyam dravinashe vibhu.
Turyam dravinashe vibhu.
Maharaj Vijitashva offered the eastern part of the world to his brother Haryaksha, the southern part to Dhumrakesh, the western part to Vrika, and the northern part to Dravina.
So is it that he gave, sorry, just one question. So is it that he make them the, like the look after of all the parts, and he was the king himself, right?
Yes, he was the emperor.
Okay. He was the emperor,
and
Okay, thank you.
Antardhana gatim shakran.
Antardhanam gatim shakrat.
Labdhavantardhana samjnita.
Labdhava antardhana sangjitah.
Apatyatrayam adhatta.
Apatyam trayam adhatah.
Shikhandinyam susamatam.
Shikhandinyam susamtamah.
Formerly, Maharaj Vijitashva pleased the king of heaven Indra, and from him received the title Antardhan. His wife's name was Shikhandini, and by her he begot 3 good sons. Maharaj Vijitashva was known as Antardhan, which means disappearance. He received this title from Indra, and it refers to the time when Indra stole Maharaj Pṛthu's horse from the sacrificial arena. Indra was not visible to others when he was stealing the horse. But Maharaj Pṛthu's son Vijitashva could see him. Yet, despite his knowing that Indra was taking away his father's horse, Vijitashva did not attack him. This indicates that Maharaj Vijitashva respected the right persons. Although Indra was stealing the horse from his father, Vijitashraya knew perfectly well that Indra was not an ordinary thief. Since Indra was a great and powerful demigod and servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vijitashraya purposefully excused him due to sentiment only, even though Indra was acting wrongly. Thus, Indra became very pleased with Vijitashraya at that time. The demigods have the great mystic power of being able to appear and disappear according to their will. And since Indra was very pleased with Vijitashraya, he bestowed this mystic power upon him. Thus, Vijitashraya became known as Antardhan. So, this was when Indra was getting very envious. He was feeling very insecure and he stole the horse. So, Vijitashraya could see him, but he did not do anything. So this is why Lord, that's the reason Indra has also given him this power that he can also disappear at his will. Because Vijitashraya could understand that Indra is a great, great personality. He's the king of heaven. He's ruling the heaven as a service to Krishna. Just as the cabinet ministers, they are serving the president or the prime minister. Pavaka Pavamanascha
Pavamanascha
Shuchir iti Agnaya Pura
Shuchi iti Agnayah Pura
Vashishtha Shapat Utpana
Vashishta Shapat Utpana
Punar Yoga Gatim Gataha.
Punar Yoga Gatim Gataha.
The three sons of Maharaj Antardhan were named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Shuchi. Formerly, these three personalities were the demigods of fire. But due to the curse of the great sage Vashishtha, they became the sons of Maharaj Antardhan. As such, they were as powerful as the fire gods, and they attained the destination of mystic yoga power, being again situated as the demigods of fire. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.41-43, it is stated that one who falls down from yoga practice is elevated to the heavenly planets, and after enjoying the material facilities there, he again comes down to the earthly planets and takes birth in a very rich family or a very pious Brahmana family. Thus, it is to be understood that when demigods fall down, they come to earth as sons of very rich and pious families. So Krishna was telling Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita, no, because Arjuna asked him what happens to the unsuccessful yogi, because someone may start the yoga practice, but may not be able to finish it in one life. So then what happens? So Krishna says one who has just begun, just begun devotional service, just begun. Then he goes to become the demigods, goes to the heavenly planets. And then after that, again, he comes to the earth. Then he gets his chance again to revive his Krishna consciousness. He takes birth in a very rich family or in a pious Brahmana family. So this is when one falls down after a short time of devotional service. But the great transcendentalist, Krishna says, what happens to them? That they are born in the family also of great Goswamis, transcendentalists, like the pure devotees. And Srila Prabhupada mentions in that purport that he himself and his spiritual master had the great fortune of being born in such family, the great Vaishnava families. And Krishna says such a birth is very, very rare. So, reading on, in such families, the living entity gets an opportunity to execute Krishna consciousness and thereby gain promotion to his desired goal. So, because Krishna wants to point out, Arjuna was concerned. Somebody begins devotional service, cannot perfect it, what happens? So Krishna is reassuring him that it doesn't go in waste. Devotional service, one begins from that same point where one has left off in the next life. The sons of Maharaj Antardhan had been demigods in charge of fire, and they regained their former position and by mystic power returned to the heavenly planets. So there must be some pastime. I'm not sure if it will be described here, but it seems that they had gotten cursed by Vashishta Muni, the sons of Antardhan. Originally they were demigods in charge of fire. Antardhano nabhasvatyam.
Antardhano nabhastavyam.
Havirdhanam avindata.
Havidharnam avindatah.
Ya indram ashvahartaram.
Ya indram ashvahartaram.
Vidvan api na jagnivan.
Vidwan api na jagnivan.
Maharaj Antardhan had another wife named Nabhaswati, and by her he was happy to beget another son named Havirdhan. Since Maharaj Antardhan was very liberal, he did not kill Indra while the demigod was stealing his father's horse at the sacrifice. It is understood from various scriptures and Puranas that the king of heaven, Indra, was very expert in stealing and kidnapping. He could steal anything without being visible to the proprietor, and he could kidnap anyone's wife without being detected. Well, that's quite a reputation, no? But anyway, he's the king of heaven. He's a greatly qualified person. He's a devotee of the Lord. So he's playing this part to show us that even if one can become a king of heaven, still there are so many intrigues and he's scared that his position will be taken away. So this is the part he's playing to show so that we all don't aspire to go up to heavenly planet and we aspire to go back home, back to Godhead. So once he raped the wife of Gautam Muni by using his disappearing art, and similarly by becoming invisible, he stole the horse of Maharaj Pṛthu. Although in human society such activities are considered abominable, the demigod Indra was not considered to be degraded by them. Although Antardhan could understand that King Indra was stealing the horse from his father, he did not kill Indra, for he knew that if one who is very powerful sometimes commits an abominable act, it should be disregarded. So in Bhagavad Gita 9:30, it is clearly stated, Api chetsu duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadur eva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. Thus, the Lord says that even if a devotee commits an abominable act, he should be considered a sadhu or a pious man because of his unflinching devotion to the Lord. So, the devotees of the Lord never willingly commit any sinful act, but sometimes they commit something abominable due to their previous habits. Such acts should not be taken very seriously, however, because the devotees of the Lord are very powerful, whether they are on the heavenly planets or on this planet. If by chance they commit something abominable, it should not be taken into account, but should be overlooked. So the position of the devotee, Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, because the devotee is righteous, he's sometimes, after all, we are in the material body, tend to commit some abominable activity. So the devotee, even if he can perform something abominable by accident, not regularly, then he is to be excused. Prabhupada writes in the purport, not that somebody makes a habit of it, that, oh, well, I'm a devotee, I will chant my rounds and I can do anything. No, this is accidental fall down, like some extreme circumstance happens. But in such cases, Rajnam Vritim Karadana.
Rajnam Vritim Karadana.
Danda Shulkadi Daruna.
Danda Shulka Adi Darunam.
Manyamano Dirgha Satra.
Manyamano Dirgha Satra.
Vyajena Visasarjaha.
Vyasjena Visasarjanaha.
Whenever Antardhan, the supreme royal power, had to exact taxes, punish his citizens, or fine them severely, he was not willing to do so. Consequently, he retired from the execution of such duties and engaged himself in the performance of different sacrifices. It is clear herein that the king sometimes has to perform duties which are not very desirable just because he is the king. Similarly, Arjuna was not at all willing to fight because fighting or killing one's own kinsmen and family members is not at all desirable. Nonetheless, the Kshatriyas had to perform such undesirable actions as a matter of duty. Maharaj Antardhan was not very happy while exacting taxes or punishing the citizens for their criminal activities. Therefore, on the plea of performing sacrifices, he retired from the royal majestic power at a very early age. So, he's so rare, no, now to find someone. He didn't want to take taxes. He didn't want to punish anyone, but he's a king and he has to do it, but he doesn't like to do it. So he's like, okay, I'm retiring. I'm going to retire. I'm going to do sacrifices. Tatrapi hamsam purusham.
Tatra apihansam purusham.
Paramatmanam atmadrek.
Paramatmanam atmadrik.
Yajamstallokatam apa.
Yajamstallokatam apa.
Kushalena samadhina.
Kushalena samadhina.
Although Maharaj Antardhan was engaged in performing sacrifices, because he was a self-realized soul, he very intelligently rendered devotional service to the Lord, who eradicates all the fears of his devotees. By thus worshipping the Supreme Lord, Maharaj Antardhan, wrapped in ecstasy, attained his planet very easily. Since sacrifices are generally performed by fruitive actors, it is especially mentioned here, Tatrapi, that although Maharaj Antardhan was externally engaged in performing sacrifices, his real business was rendering devotional service by hearing and chanting. In other words, he was performing the usual sacrifices by the method of Sankirtan Yajna as recommended herein. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishno Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanavedanam. Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 23. This is Prahlad Maharaj. He says, this is the Nava Anga Bhakti, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu. Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam. Hearing, chanting, remembering, worshipping the lotus feet. So Maharaj Antardhan, he's doing the sacrifices, but his real sacrifice is devotional service. Devotional service is called Kirtan Yajna, and by practicing the Sankirtan Yajna, one is very easily elevated to the planet where the Supreme Lord resides. Out of the 5 kinds of liberations, achieving the same planet where the Lord resides and living with the Lord there is called Salokya liberation. So 5 kinds of liberation. And living on the same planet as the Lord is called Salokya, and this is the Salokya Mukti, which Maharaj Antardhan got. He got Salokya Mukti, living on the same planet as the Supreme Lord by engaging in Sankirtan Yajna. Sankirtan
So
Yajna is
this one,
also the yajna recommended for this age of Kali. I'm sorry.
sorry, this one they are talking about Golok, right?
Which planet? You mean which planet
Yeah.
has he achieved?
Yeah.
He say he's attained his planet very easily. So doesn't specify.
Doesn't specify
Which
because
planet?
Sankirtan would be there, or would it be like one of the Vaikuntha lokas?
Yeah, it could be either.
Okay, okay.
It could be either.
Could be either. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it
Thank
says the planet where the Supreme Lord resides. So
Yeah.
that's why.
Planet where the Supreme Lord resides. So it could be Golok, it could be any other Vaikuntha planet, because the Lord is there in all the planets as his expansion. So it could be either, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Havirdhanat Dhavirdhani
Havirdhanath Havirdhani
Vidura Sutas Shat Sutan
Vidur Asut Shat Sutan
Sutan
Baheshadam Gayam Shuklam
Barishidam Gayam Shuklam
Shuklam
Krishnam Satyam Chitavratam.
Krishnam
Krishnam
Satyam
Satyam
Jita Vratam.
Vratam.
Havirdhan, the son of Maharaj Antardhan, had a wife named Havirdhani, who gave birth to 6 sons named Barhishat, Gaya, Shukla, Krishna, Satya, and Jitavrata. So this is the son of Antardhan, is Havirdhan. So he's the grandson of Pṛthu Maharaj. Also, you see, because Antardhan depends on who is his worshipable deity. He is worshipping Lord Krishna, or he's worshipping Lord Vishnu. Could be either. It's not, but it's not specified. So it depends on who does he have his relationship with. Yeah. So, Barhishat Sumahabhago
Barhishatsu Mahabhago
Havirdhani Prajapate
Havirdhani Prajapati
Kriya Kandeshu Nishnato
Kriya Kandeshu Nishnato
Yogeshu Cha Kurudvaha.
Yogeshu Chakuru Udvaha.
The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidur, Havirdhana's very powerful son named Barhishat was very expert in performing various kinds of fruitive sacrifices, and he was also expert in the practice of mystic yoga. By these great qualifications, he became known as Prajapati. In the beginning of the creation, there were not many living entities, and consequently, the very powerful living entities or demigods were appointed as Prajapatis in order to beget children and increase the population. Because first was only Brahma, no? Then Brahma created the four Kumaras. They did not want to populate. Came Lord Shiva, Narad Muni, and gradually, the 7 sages, Daksha. So Brahma was creating these personalities, and he wanted them to populate the earth because it was his service to give the different bodies to the different souls, different living entities. There are many Prajapatis, Brahma, Daksh, and Manu are sometimes known as Prajapatis, and Barishat, the son of Havirdhan, became one of them. Yasyedam deva yajanam.
Yasya idam deva yajanam.
Anu yagnam vitanvata.
Anu yagnam vitanvataha.
Prachinagre kusher asid.
Prachin agre kushe asid.
Ashtratam vasudhatalam.
Ashritam vasudhatalam.
Maharaj Barishat executed many sacrifices all over the world. He scattered kusha grasses and kept the tops of the grasses pointed eastward. As stated in the previous verse, Kriya Kandeshu Nishnata, Maharaj Barishat dived very deeply into the fruitive activities of sacrifice. This means that as soon as he finished one yajna in one place, he began performing another yajna in the immediate vicinity. So this he is doing is fruitive activities of sacrifice, means he was doing sacrifice, which is mentioned in the Karm Kand section, something like that, So at the present moment, there is a similar need to perform Sankirtan Yajna all over the world. The Krishna consciousness movement has started performing Sankirtan Yajna in different places. And it has been experienced that wherever Sankirtan Yajna is performed, many thousands of people gather and take part in it. Imperceptible auspiciousness achieved in this connection should be continued all over the world. So sacrifices have been performed since time immemorial. In every age, sacrifice is recommended, and the sacrifice recommended in this age of Kali is Sankirtan Yajna, Harinam Sankirtan. Kali Yuga Dharma, Harinam Sankirtan. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement should perform Sankirtan Yajnas one after another, so much so that all the people of the world will either jokingly or seriously chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
And thus they will derive the benefit of cleansing the heart. So Prabhupada is saying, because at that time already the devotees were doing Harinam, they were going everywhere doing Harinam, they were doing Sankirtan. Prabhupada is saying it should increase so much that people that really they've taken up devotional service seriously, they are chanting, or even jokingly saying, oh, this Hare Krishna people are chanting Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Because in either way, the chanting takes the effect, even if jokingly chanted. What's the benefit? Yeah, what is Prabhupada saying is the benefit?
Like, the benefit is cleansing the heart. Our hearts
That's
get
right.
cleansed.
Yes, Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Shikshastakam, the very first, it begins with that. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The very first thing that happens when one chants the Hare Krishna mantra, cleansing the heart. Cleansing the heart of all the misgivings, of all our ignorance. The holy name of the Lord Harer Nam is so powerful that whether it is chanted jokingly or seriously, the effect of vibrating this transcendental sound will be equally distributed. Same like, medicine, we may know its effect, we may not know its effect, we may take it happily, we may take it cryingly. It will affect. The medicine does take the effect. Similarly, even if one jokingly chants Hare Krishna, one's spiritual life begins. It is not possible at the present moment to perform repeated yajnas as Maharaj Barishat performed, but it is within our means to perform Sankirtan Yajna, which does not cost anything. One can sit down anywhere and chant Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. If the surface of the globe is overflooded with the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, the people of the world will be very, very happy. So Prabhupada is putting very, very, he would say, chant and be happy. Because the heart gets clean, then all the misgivings go away. So chant and be happy. Chanting brings us to the liberated platform, Cheto Darpana Marjana. Yeah. Brings us to the liberated platform. Yeah. This is a bit long. I don't think we'll be able to finish it in 5 minutes. So should we stop here for today?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada
Jai.
ki jai, Gaur
Jai.
Bhakta Vrinda ki. Hare Krishna,
Jai.
thank you so much
Hare
for
Krishna.
listening.